Spring football is officially in the books in Como for the Missouri Tigers, helping us break it all down, giving us updates from what took place this spring. Jarod Hamilton, a beat writer for PowerMizzou.com. He takes the time to talk with us and update us on all things Tigers football. Jarod, I appreciate you taking the time, man. What's going on?
Not much. What's going on with you?
Not much, man. Dude, I'm excited to talk about this again. Mizzou, 21 wins over the last 2 years, so a very exciting spring when you think about some of the new faces, obviously, and really the expectations. Jarod, I want to start with this first. This isn't even on the field, but it's, we heard Eli Drinkwitz speak this spring. He goes on Paul Feinbaum and says, this is the most talented Mizzou team that he has ever had. After winning 21 games the last 2 years, your thoughts on that statement from Coach Drinkwitz? I don't think he would say it unless he believed it. And did you see that this spring where you kind of felt the same as there's a lot of talent out there that maybe people just haven't heard about yet?
All right, I'll break this down in 2 parts. So the first part, to me, I kind of, 21 wins, last couple of seasons. In a way, for me, it's kind of like, well, what do you expect him to say? I mean, you should be feeling that way, the way this program is going the last 2 years. They should have that type of confidence. And with the guys they brought in during the transfer portal, the first wave of it at least, I think he's got some good reason to believe that. I really like what they did defensively. They really attacked the portal hard. I love what they did at edge specifically. They got Damon Wilson, Nate Johnson from App State, and they got Langdon Kitchen from Northwest Missouri State. And so what I like about Damon Wilson, per 24/7 Sports, we've got him as the one of 2 5-star transfers. So you can get you can pull one of those big fishes. I mean, there's a reason to be excited there. Defensive coordinator Corey Batoon told us early in camp they felt kind of like they were lacking a little bit depth-wise at the edge position last year, kind of going into the season. And so they knew that was something they were going to attack. I think all things said, though, the defense, I think it was a top 20 defense last year, so it still performed really well. The edge group did really well, considering, they had a couple injuries to key guys in the rotation. So I think they attacked edge really well. I like what they did at safety, getting Jalen Catalon, formerly of Arkansas, Texas, UNLV, coming off a 3rd-team All-American type of year. 5 interceptions. Anytime you can get a ball hawk like that to add to what they got, I really like that. Linebacker, I said this about linebacker. They've got a good problem at linebacker because they start 2 linebackers. They have 3 who could start. Easily could start. I think they have, other people where if you need, a game or 2 where they could start and stuff like that. But when we talk about Mekhi Bayer, formerly in Nebraska, talking about Josiah Trotter, Big 12, reigning Big 12 Defensive Player of the Year for freshmen at least. You got those 2, and then you got Tristan Newsom coming back. I mean, that's 3 players right there that instantly can plug in. I like Bayer. He's got versatility. He can play the will or the mic. You got Trotter, tackling machine, 92 tackles last year. He can play the mic. And then you got Newsom, again, a vet who's playing that will last year, has a lot of experience. I just like what they did up and down. Now, obviously, offense and the quarterback is what everybody's talking about. That's kind of where it gets a little questionable as far as what we get to see of spring ball and what they let us see and stuff like that. So obviously it's Sam Horn, it's Beau Pribula and Drew Pine. We really couldn't get to see much to be like, this looks better than that, and this person's doing well. Big thing they would say throughout camp is just individual player development. So it's about learning the schemes, getting the fundamentals down packed, learning how MU does things around here. That's kind of what they were saying. So couldn't really get to say, this guy is shining more than this guy or this person isn't. We don't really know that, but I'm not surprised that Drink would say this is his best team. I think they made some additions, and considering what their recent history is, they should feel like that because they're kind of on that cusp of being in that playoff. So I get why he would say that.
Yeah, I want to start, Jarod, on the offensive side. You mentioned Beau Pribula, and again, they're not going to show everything, right? Like, it's to your point. We're not going to come on here and over exaggerate anything or whatever. But like, they brought him in to be the starter. Yes. Did you get a vibe of like he is the guy, or is this a wide open competition where it's going to come down to the wire in fall camp?
I kind of got the vibe that it's based off how they were running drills and stuff like that, especially with quarterbacks. I mean, the first the first time we talked to Drink, he was like, how we decided, which quarterbacks was going to run with the first team? We made them play rock, paper, scissors for it. And so you can't really tell from that perspective, but just kind of being around the team, knowing people within the team, and kind of seeing how things have worked for the last few seasons, my understanding is it's probably Beau's job to lose, because you don't just get a quarterback and, pay him the money, whatever the money is, but you don't go out, get a quarterback for that person to be not the starter. So he does have to earn it. It's not a given. I wrote earlier this week, or maybe it was last week, it's not kind of like 2022 when Brady Cook, it was him, Jack Abraham, Tyler Macon, Sam Horn, and he won the job in a week. It's not 2023 where it's a two-man race, where it's just Brady, who kind of had like a little bit of an edge because he was the returning starter, and Sam Horn. It seems like it's like a good three-person race between Pine, Horn, and Beau. But I would say Beau has the edge, because that's why you got him.
The wide receiver room, Jarod, that's going to be one of the biggest storylines, I think, going into the season. Obviously, you lose Luther Burden, Theo Weiss, one of the most dynamic 1-2 duos in the conference. You could argue the best wide receiver in the conference in Luther Burden. Have you seen anything, or did you see anything from spring ball? Anybody stepping up? Obviously, Joshua Manning's back. Marquise Johnson's back. You did pick up Kevin Coleman out of the portal, which I thought was a pretty big pickup. Like you said, you guys got to see limited, but anyone flash, or did you hear any buzz out of camp that leads you to believe that this wide receiver room is just going to be just fine, even after losing a guy like Luther Burden?
I think the three that you named are kind of the guys where everybody, they feel comfortable with that position group. Getting Kevin Coleman, I mean, how direct of a one-to-one replacement can you get for Luther Burden? Even down to the number, where they're from. They're around the same height. I know Lou is a little bit bigger than him, but they're both played a slot. I mean, Coleman across the board actually had a better season statistically than Lou did last year. Obviously, different situations. So, that stuff kind of varies and is a little bit flexible and stuff like that. But you got a true playmaker. You got a wide receiver one. They like Josh Manning and what he can do as that kind of, possession receiver, jump ball guy, that can give him that. And then you got Marquise Johnson, the fastest player on the team, one of the fastest players in the country. I mean, what he can do, he showed that his freshman year, showed it in the Music City Bowl, what his ability can be. And back to Coleman, that's a guy where I think he's probably going to also be their punt returner. I think he was 18th in the FBS in punt return yard average, about almost 10 yards per return. So you can get somebody like that who can do two things, again, like Lou, was doing during his time here. That's good. I guess an outside guy that people are interested in is four-star signing Donovan Olagbodi. Now that guy, he looks like he can be, something decent. About 6 foot, 6'1", 205 pounds, something like that. Other players have said, he's had a great spring ball. And again, it's early spring ball. There's a lot more stuff that goes into it, and they'll learn more as fall camp in the summer and all that stuff. But he's a player that's kind of impressed some coaches, impressed some players with his ability to catch. I know Kirby Moore, the OC, kind of said he's more advanced for a wide receiver just coming out of high school. There's not as many things. I mean, there's still a lot to teach him, obviously, but there's not as many things that they have to worry. He's kind of a polished player. So I wouldn't be surprised if that's a guy who I wouldn't say is, starting or anything like that. But if he's just, maybe he doesn't have to use that red shirt. Maybe he can find his way like Josh Manning did in, years prior, like Lou, like Mekhi Miller, some of those guys.
The running back room, too, Jarod, is interesting because, again, you lose Marcus Carroll, Nate Noel, a pair of guys that rushed for almost 1,500 yards, or right at 1,500 yards combined a season ago. You pick up Ahmad Hardy out of the transfer portal. Jamal Roberts is back. Tavares Jones are back. You got some experience there. I mean, these guys, they've been in the program a few years. And, again, Hardy out of the portal. Thoughts on what you saw from the running back room, and has anyone emerged as a RB1? Are they counting on Hardy for that coming from ULM, or is that kind of wide open? Again, second straight offseason that we're talking about a transfer in that running back room looking to emerge and kind of be that bell cow for the offense.
Well, when we talked to Kirby, so that was probably like 2.5 weeks, from right now, they said they're still trying to figure out, how they're going to divvy up this workload and who gets what. But the expectation is, you bring somebody in like Ahmad Hardy, one of the top 12, 13 rushers in the league or in the nation last year, coming off freshman of the year honors for the Sun Belt, first team all Sun Belt selection. You want a guy like that to be your RB1. just be honest. So, I mean, he's big and tough. There's not going to be arm tackles that's going to take him down, is what I'll say. So, but he's also got that speed to make plays happen once he gets free. So, definitely be the RB1, but I do like what they got in the running back room. You talked about Jamal Roberts. He kind of carved out, a role as the third down running back last year. They really like what he can do in pass pro. So that's one guy who, he'll be there. Marquise Davis is a 4-star freshman who I see. And again, they said they moved around the groups in spring ball, so we can't necessarily say this is the first or second team, but I feel like I got a good idea. It seemed like second team reps, a lot of them early on. I mean, 6 foot, 200-pound guy, another big guy. When I look at him, Ahmad Hardy and Austin Dindy, I said to someone yesterday, they're on the Saquon Barkley regimen. I mean, these guys' quads are huge. They are not, there's no arm tackles either. They're going to be a physical run group. I think it will in some ways be by a committee, kind of, but it's going to be mostly led by Ahmad Hardy.
You mentioned already, Jarod, the defensive side, but I'll jump there anyways. You look at what Mizzou did last year on a first-year defensive coordinator, Corey Batoon, really, really solid. But you lose Marcus Carroll, Christian Williams, Johnny Walker Jr., Corey Flagg, who was really good at linebacker, Joseph Charleston in that secondary. But you mentioned a lot of transfers on this side. Damon Wilson, Josiah Trotter, Stephen Hall, Jalen Catalan coming over, I believe, from, Arkansas, I think he came from. Just talk about, again, what you saw from the defense as a whole. Second year of Corey Batoon. I'd imagine there's a lot of stuff, a lot of terminology, a lot of things he was doing last year. I would imagine it's a little bit more smooth this spring anytime you're getting out of a first year and entering into the second year of a campaign. And you reloaded essentially with some really top-tier talent out of the portal.
I think it's probably a balance because of, all the transfers you just talked about. You can't do too much because you got to work those guys in. But yes, it was probably a much smoother, off-season spring ball, because he talked about, around when spring ball started last year, he had probably been in town maybe a week and a half. So he was jumping straight into it. And so, yeah, that first year, I know when Blake Baker was here, they talked about how, you don't want to say vanilla, but for the most part, it's kind of a vanilla type of thing. Like, let's not overcomplicate things for the players. And I know Drink usually has the DC learn what's in place and then add their own flavor to it, as opposed to making all the players learn what they're trying to do. So I know that's a little bit easier on Corey this year. But yeah, they've got a lot of talent that they're bringing in and a lot of vets. So it shouldn't be the hardest thing in the world to kind of get those guys on board and stuff like that. But I would say, if I would, for Mizzou fans, I think you should be, kind of excited about that defense. And like you said, reloading as more than rebuilding your defense. That's always what I think a fan would like to hear, is that you're retooling and that you're being able to reload.
Jarod, let's show some love to special teams. I'm going to ask you, did you see anything? You did mention in regards to kick returner, punt returner. That was a little bit of a story. Maybe Kevin Coleman taking over the punt returner spot. But you've also got a new punter in Connor Wesselman. Anything stand out to you from the special team side of things? Again, it's not the sexiest thing to talk about. We don't think about it first, but makes a big difference winning and losing ball games.
Yeah, so along with punt return, like I said, Kevin Coleman, they still got Daniel Blood. It was just him and Luther who were fielding punts last year, so that's another option. They got Sean Terry, who Drink is called an elite punt returner. Special teams coordinator Eric Link has called him like a dynamic returner. So those are some guys who may be able to get chances. Marquise Johnson should still be one of the 2 kick returners. I mean, Coach Link was just like, you can't take a weapon with his speed and his ability off the field. And so it makes sense. Now, does that mean players like Coleman and Johnson are doing these all the time? No, I doubt that they're taking every punt return and kick return rep, but they'll be back there. When it comes to punter, I feel like Coach Link kind of alluded to it. When this spring portal opens, I think it's April 16th, they'll probably look into bring in another punter. And it makes sense just for the simple fact that when you look at Wesselman, he's only played 1 season, and that was 2 seasons ago. So you bring in a punter who didn't play last year, kind of got to bring in some competition just to make sure, As far as kicker, Blake Craig, he helped himself out with the Music City Bowl. Had 2 fourth-quarter field goals that were huge, both from 50-plus yards. His big thing is 40 to 49 yards. Went 1 of 7 last year on those kicks. So it's always been, he's got the leg for it. one of their strongest legs in the country, but the accuracy, especially in the 40 to 49, that's where a lot of field goal opportunities are going to happen for most kickers. He's got to be able to knock them through. It's not a secret. Coach Drink talked about it. Coach Link talked about it. Blake himself has talked about it. So they know where they got to attack. But I think for now, he's good. He's going to be the starting kicker.
Jarod, top standouts, anybody that I know Beau Pribula, the quarterback, is the one everybody wants to talk about, but was there a guy that caught your eye that maybe you saw and you feel like he could be a star this fall? Maybe folks aren't talking about or just isn't getting the love coming out of spring.
I feel like I talked about quite a bit of guys. Here's somebody on the offensive line, because that's going to be something, losing 3 starters on the OL and still worrying about kind of center Connor Tolson coming back from that torn ACL. It could be 4 depending on when he gets back. But Dominic Gaitis is a transfer from Michigan. He's got some position flexibility. He's played all 3 interior spots. From the first, so I guess it was technically the second practice, but the first time we talked to Coach Drink, he was talking about how impressed he was with Gaitis, kind of getting all the calls down, being able to snap the ball well. And, they seem like they feel real comfortable with him at center if that's where they need to be until Connor comes back. I'm guessing when Connor comes back, he retakes his job as the starting center. But that's a guy who every time we talk to him or offensive line coach Brandon Jones or another lineman, they're like, Dom's came in and he's done what he's needed to do. He's been a professional, and they like his versatility, being able to move him around to wherever they need. So even if he doesn't even become a starter, that's a guy who, something goes down, they feel real comfortable. And that's not the sexiest thing to talk about, but when they experienced some injuries last year, Drake Heismeyer filled in really well for Connor Tolson. Yeah, Mitch Walters as that swing tackle kind of come in and fill in where he needed to, and it really helped them kind of keep them on a steady path, I guess, towards the stretch end of the season. So Dominic Gaitis is one that just kept popping up that I noticed, like, okay, he may be a guy that they may need to plug him in somewhere. Tristan Wilson is a guy who's been, getting first team right guard snaps. He's been on the team for a few years. It's kind of one of those guys where you're just hoping like they develop and stuff like that and hope that they get a shot. And it looks like, maybe for that right guard spot that it could be his. So just a couple of offensive linemen off the top of my head.
Back-to-back 10-win seasons and the excitement at an all-time high in Como as the countdown essentially begins, the 2025 season. Jarod Hamilton, Power Mizzou, one of the best in the business when it comes to talking all things Missouri Tigers. Jarod, I appreciate you taking the time, man. Let folks know where they can find all your great work.
Yeah, so just go ahead and hop on powermizzou.com. We got stuff every single day coming out, not just about football, but basketball, women's basketball. Everything's going on right now for Missouri. You can find my work at Jarod C. Hamilton on Twitter, X, whatever you guys like to call it. So that's it.
Jarod, appreciate you taking the time, man. Let's definitely do it again soon.
Awesome. Appreciate you.